COVID-19 has been disastrous for our economy and our productivity.
But it has caused us to reset, rethink, and innovate.
Productivity Awareness Week 2020 will focus on building collective resilience in tourism, infrastructure, and the financial sector.
Rethink our approach to the agriculture, manufacturing, and the health sector.
It calls for innovation in education and taking advantage of opportunities in the digital economy.
Telework for greater resilience and productivity.
Join the discussions during Productivity Awareness Week from October 12th to the 16th.
Under the theme, Building Resilience Through Collective Action.
Reset.
Rethink.
Innovate.
Join the discussions live on Facebook at St. Lucia, NCPC, the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, embracing excellence.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second annual Research Symposium. Those of us joining us on Zoom, welcome, and thanks for your patience. We apologize for the late start, but hopefully you can hear us well. Today we have quite an interesting session for you. We have research papers and institutions such as the Department of Commerce, the Ministry of Education. We also have representatives from the Department of Finance, and we also have discussants for the papers that you're about to hear from the ECCB, the FSRA, and the Ministry of Agriculture. Today's session is the second. We would have had a research symposium last year, which would have been the inaugural. And at that, there were several lessons that were learned. One of them was that there were too many papers in the sessions. Last year, we went through as many as 14 papers during the course of one day. This session today is going to be a bit shorter, and that allows more time for discussion. During the course of today and session one, I will be the moderator. I am Janai Leos, the Chief Economist at the Department of Finance. The Research Symposium is a collaboration between the Research and Policy Unit, which is a small unit in the Department of Finance, and the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council. The month of October, many things are celebrated in that month, but one of those things that is celebrated is Productivity Awareness Week. So this session, which is going to be a whole day session, and I would introduce you to the participants in a bit, but this session, which is going to be an entire day, is essentially one of the activities in the Productivity 2020 Awareness Week. We are going to start today's proceedings with a word of prayer, and I'm going to call Mr. Kimbert Evans to the podium to deliver some prayers, and then we would have some welcome remarks and move into the keynote address. So Mr. Kimbert Evans, who is an economist at the Department of Finance. Mr. Evans.
Let's all stand, bow our heads for prayer. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support during this Productivity Awareness Week. Please send your Holy Spirit to bless and prepare our minds to the unseen possibilities which are before us. Help us engage in meaningful discussions, allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we discuss conventional and non-conventional topics that affect us and our community at large. May you continue to remind us that all we do here today at this research symposium, all that we accomplish is in the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you and for the service of humanity. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. We will now have welcome remarks by Ms. Gemma Lafay, who is the Director of the Research and Policy Unit in the Department of Finance. Ms. Lafay.
Thank you, Mr. Leos. I would like to adopt the same protocols which has been established by our moderator. Specially invited guests, heads of departments, and other officials within the public service, fellow colleagues from local and regional organizations, members of the news media, the general public, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning to you all. On behalf of the Department of Finance, I am delighted to welcome you to the third edition of our annual research symposium, which is being held under the theme, Building Economic and Social Resilience Through Digital Transformation. I am particularly pleased with the support and tacit endorsement given to us, as evidenced by your repeat presence and participation in our research symposium. I wish to express our sincere appreciation for your encouragement in the face of the current protocols associated with travel and gatherings. This symposium seeks to bring together, in conjunction with the staff of the Department of Finance, economists and other research enthusiasts from across St. Lucia into a setting where ideas, views, and perspectives can contend and be presented for the overall enlightenment and benefit of us all. Our partners include the local academic community, such as the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College and the Monroe College, regional organizations, such as the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the Caribbean Development Bank, the OECS Commission, and government ministries with a research agenda as a key activity in their work programs. The overall objective of the research symposium is to receive useful feedback on research work done in order to enhance our economic and social outcomes through evidence-based policy recommendations on topical macroeconomic issues of critical importance to St. Lucia. This research symposium provides a platform for economists and practitioners, especially the young professionals and other public sector officials, to enhance the design of policy proposals to better achieve a given objective. More generally, through events such as this, we hope to foster a culture of structured public dialogue based on sound premises and methodologies to inform policymaking. Organizing this initiative is a research and policy unit, which is manned by a small cadre of 11 officers within the Department of Finance, primarily charged with the responsibility for monitoring economic developments, conducting macroeconomic analyses and research so as to advise policymakers on economic and fiscal policies in St. Lucia. We believe that robust research and its dissemination are key components of a better policy-making environment, and this belief serves as the overarching thrust and razor debt for this symposium. In light of this year's COVID crisis and the associated challenges, resilience building has become an imperative for our country's continued survival and future prospects. As such, the theme for this symposium is centered around the realization that our small, vulnerable country needs to vigorously seize potential economic opportunities presented by this unprecedented crisis in order to boost our competitiveness. Undoubtedly, this global crisis has bolstered the case for building technology as a plank in our economic resilience agenda. Our drive towards the greater use of research to enhance productivity of our limited resources complements the broader theme for this year's Productivity and Awareness Week, which is building resilience through collective action, reset, rethink, innovate. During this week, the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council is hosting a series of events, other events including panel discussions on pertinent topics such as all eggs in one basket, is St. Lucia over-reliant on tourism, as well as opportunities in the digital economy. And it also includes video features on the digital currency and its pluses and minuses for economic resilience. This symposium and the week's activities, therefore, highlight the research and innovative efforts aimed at improving policies and national outcomes. We are pleased to have our keynote address for this symposium being delivered by Mr. Embert Segis, a former macroeconomic advisor at the Caribbean Regional Technical Assistance Center, as well as a former director of the Research and Policy Unit, who has encouraged the staff of the department to engage in research for public consumption. During the course of today, 6 papers will be presented in 3 separate sessions on the following topics: a financial inclusive approach to enhancing credit in St. Lucia, a review of St. Lucia's agriculture sector with a proposed technological growth model, strengthening social safety nets to respond to shocks, promoting positive mental health in students, enhancing schools' connectedness in vulnerable youth through arts education, and returns to education in St. Lucia. The program for today's activities has been circulated for your information. We are grateful that the comments on these papers will be provided by distinguished representatives from the ECCB, the FSRA, the Department of Economic Development, Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Department of Health and Wellness, and the Ministry of Equity. We anticipate that the insights and experiences will be most useful to the policy discussions during this symposium. I wish to draw to your attention the change in the format of this year's symposium. Mindful of the COVID protocols, this year's symposium will include presentations on the initial series of working papers, in addition to the usual poster deliveries, and the formal sessions where presenters, discussants, and the audience will engage in the research findings presented. In addition to the physical setting and audience here with us, the symposium is being conducted virtually and is also live streamed. I would like to express our gratitude to the National Council, Competitiveness and Productivity Council for the assistance provided in making this symposium possible. I also wish to applaud you, the presenters, the invited guests, discussants, and participants for joining us today and for your contributions to the proceedings. I urge you to interact with the presenters who are eager to hear from you. We hope that the symposium is a success, and we look forward to your continued support and active participation. In closing, I wish you a day filled with insightful and thought-provoking discourse on the various topics presented. We also look forward to seeing you at the next symposium, 2020-21, as we strive to build a tradition of public conversations on internal research undertaken for the betterment of St. Lucia. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Laffey, Director in the Research and Policy Unit in the Department of Finance. Building economic and social resilience through digital transformation. That is the theme for today's session, and all of the papers in one way or another would attempt to touch on the digital aspect of this theme, particularly in light of what we have seen with COVID, where innovations have had to have been made with respect to how you service your clients, how do you service your constituents in an environment where meeting in the physical realm is not that easy. The next agenda item on today's session would be the keynote address. But before we enter into that, I'll have Ms. Yasmin Alfred, an economist at the Department of Finance, to welcome and introduce to you the keynote speaker. Yes, Yasmin Alfred.
Good day. Mr. Mbed Sejis is a graduate of the University of the West Indies and the University of Bath in the UK, with a bachelor's degree in economics and master's degree in fiscal studies, respectively. Mr. Sejis served in the St. Lucia Public Service for a combined period of 32 years, of which 24 was at the Ministry of Finance, where he retired in 2017 as the Director of Research and Policy. He also served as a senior economist at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCB, from 2004 to 2008, and the macroeconomic advisor at the Caribbean Regional Technical Assistance Center from February 2018 to August 2020. Currently, Mr. Sejis is a freelance macroeconomic consultant focusing on capacity building and providing technical assistance to countries in the Caribbean region. During his tenure at the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Sejis was instrumental in developing the research agenda of the Research and Policy Unit and capacity building among the staff. He has received numerous training in the fields of economics and finance during his professional career. Mr. Sejis has made a marked impact on enhancing technical capacity throughout the Caribbean region while at CARTAC. He has undertaken 27 technical assistance missions to 15 countries during his tenure at CARTAC. His main area of focus includes training economists at ministries of finance and central banks in building medium-term macro-fiscal frameworks, public debt sustainability analysis, macroeconomic modeling, and economic research and analysis. During the last 4 weeks, Mr. Segis assisted the government of Anguilla in developing their medium-term economic plan in his capacity as a private consultant. With this being said, let us welcome Mr. Segis.
Hold on, Mr. Segis. Let me just make sure that you're not muted. I believe your microphone may be muted.
Yeah.
Okay, we can hear you now. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Ms. Alfred, for this introduction. I'm happy to be back with you at the Ministry of Finance, albeit in the virtual world. Special hello to those I've not seen in quite a while, and those I've not contacted since I left the ministry 3 years ago. I'm very pleased to be invited to deliver the keynote address at this year's Research Symposium, which the ministry is able to host despite the disruptive effects of COVID-19 on events such as these. I'm happy to be back with you, albeit in the virtual world, and I'm hoping to continue my contribution to this auspicious effort on your part. I must say, on reflection, that when this activity started a couple of years ago, I was unsure whether we had the human resource capacity and level of commitment to sustain this event on an annual basis. However, I am extremely pleased to witness the 3rd year of hosting such an event as part of the overall effort of highlighting Productivity Awareness Week. As one who has delivered training throughout the Caribbean region, it is not common for ministries of finance to host or even participate in research fora such as these. Therefore, the organizers and participants of the symposium must be commended for their efforts and should be encouraged to continue hosting this event going forward. As young researchers participating in such events, this could be a first step in exposing your work to others with similar interests and to further developing your knowledge and skills within your chosen discipline. I note we have presentations in various fields, such as education, natural resources management, economic and social vulnerability, fiscal policy, monetary and financial policy, and business development, just to mention a few. I therefore encourage participants to continue exploring your fields of interest, as well as others who may be contemplating jumping right into the exciting field of policy research. I am one who believes that research should not be conducted purely for the sake of doing research, but to provide empirical backup or support to policy making. And like Gemma indicated a few minutes ago, I am of the strong view that policy decisions should be anchored in empirical research and analysis, supported by data and empirical evidence. This is particularly key to small countries such as ours that lack sufficient resources. We just can't afford costly, ill-guided mistakes that could negatively impact the lives of our citizens. The opportunity cost of such mistakes could adversely impact not only the current generations, but the lives of our children and grandchildren. I note this year's theme, building economic and social resilience through digital transformation. I believe the theme has garnered more relevance in this COVID-19 environment. While it is true that COVID has disrupted many lives and has set back the economic and social achievement of many countries globally, I believe that more opportunities have emerged to leverage the investments made in digital technologies to transform the way we work through greater efficiencies. We in St. Lucia have made important strides in making use of technology for improving the operations of the public service. For example, online payment of government services. The COVID experience should propel us to further accelerate the digital transformation process, not only to avoid human transmission of the virus, for example, avoiding queuing up for renewal of driver's licenses, as has been done in the past, but also to boost productivity in the public and private sectors. And I note this is National Productivity Week, and this is quite relevant for this week. The COVID-19 induced economic contraction should serve as an opportunity for us to rethink our strategy for economic transformation and growth. The pandemic has exposed the underlying vulnerabilities of how our economy is structured. In my view, this crisis should propel governments to devise appropriate strategies to strengthen the economic resilience by focusing on three key pillars of economic recovery. And they are, number one, foreign and domestic investments, two, renewable energy, and three, digitalization. The last pillar is consistent with the theme of this symposium and seems to be in consonance with the views out there. In a recent, that is September, that is last month, a recent regional survey, digitalization was highlighted as one of the top 4 elements that will drive the economic recovery of the region. The other 3 drivers were agriculture, tourism, and renewable energy. Globally, as the pandemic continues to decimate growth to the traditional brick and mortar sectors, such as the retail sector, accommodation, restaurants, and travel, the world is witnessing a sharp rise in e-commerce activity. The most recent World Economic Report of the IMF that was released only yesterday speaks to the need, and I quote, to gradually shift policies towards reallocating workers from sectors likely to shrink on a long-term basis, such as travel, to growing sectors, such as e-commerce. Whether it's the need to reduce in-person consumer interactions, implement the work from home, or counteract the impact of lockdowns, businesses and consumers have devised convenient strategies using e-commerce to pursue their objectives. The Inter-Caribbean Development Bank, IDB, during a webinar earlier this year on the impact of the virus on Caribbean economies, highlighted the gaps in digital access and knowledge and how this can significantly limit the ability of the Caribbean to benefit from the advantages provided by the online world during the lockdown. According to the IDB, adapting to the technological changes require not only closing the digital gap for the entire population, but also investing in e-government infrastructure, reinforcing digital governance, and creating the legislative framework to accompany the changes. One suggestion is that we should be at the stage where Wi-Fi should be considered a public good, just like radio frequencies on the airwaves. So in a similar way, you can put on your radio at any spot using the old technology and receive a reception. And a similar idea is being purported for the use of Wi-Fi. The potential benefits are enormous if we are able to take greater advantage of digital technology. This can be realized if we can tap into the hidden potential of inter-regional business linkages with the use of technology. And a good example of that, a number of online food delivery companies has emerged since the start of the pandemic, some with regional affiliations. An example of that is right here in Barbados, where I am presently. There's a company called Island Direct. It has seen a rapid rise in business as some customers loathe venturing out to purchase food to avoid being contaminated or being infected by the virus. And this company has, they have affiliations throughout the region. So you might see them being established in St. Lucia soon. The role of digital transformation in strengthening economic resilience appears to have accelerated during the era of COVID-19. One study measuring the global impact of COVID-19 on business engagement strategies found that companies' digital transformation processes have advanced by 6 years. The study also found that the pandemic has broken down previous inhibitors to innovation. And I can give an example of this even for the organization that I worked with previously, that is CARTAC. At a presentation made at our steering committee about a year and a half ago, during the keynote address, the presenter recommended the transition to online virtual training delivery as a way forward for delivering training at CARTAC. However, the COVID experience has accelerated this mode of training delivery, or this innovation to training. And right now, as we speak, training is being done virtually for all the countries. So this is an example of how the COVID experience has accelerated the digital transformation. Industries that accelerated their digital innovation included tech companies, energy, healthcare, construction, and retail distribution. In the US and other countries, there has been an acceleration in e-commerce since the onset of the pandemic. I wish to highlight two recent examples of initiatives taken by regional governments in the digital transformation process. In Barbados, where I am currently, the government has recently launched a 12-month Barbados Welcome Stamp program, where persons are allowed to come and live and work remotely in Barbados up to 12 months. This is just one example of how a country can take advantage of the advancement in digital technology to sustain its economy in the midst of the pandemic. And I'm hoping that in St. Lucia, the young, bright economists will come up with something innovative, similar to Barbados, to using technology to boost our economy as the opportunities have arisen. In recognition of the profound impact of digital transformation on improving business processes and economic expansion, the Trinidad and Tobago Minister of Finance stated during the 2020-2021 budget, which was released, I think about 2 weeks ago, and I quote, "We are now convinced that going forward, our developmental model must be anchored on the newly emerging digital economy. We are already into a new cycle of accessing new markets and new models." And he gave examples: e-business, e-commerce, e-government, e-banking, among others, unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, my point is that the pandemic has triggered an acceleration of economic transformation globally and in our region through digital innovation, and countries like St. Lucia need to take advantage of the opportunities that could be created from such development. I wish to conclude my brief remarks by once again congratulating the organizers and participants of this symposium I strongly encourage you to dedicate more of your time and effort at engaging in research and analysis in whichever discipline you may be involved with. We in St. Lucia need to continue building greater capacity in this area of activity and to expand it to other institutions, not just in the public service, but the private sector as well, the whole culture of research. We should start building a culture of research which is key to sound policy making. Finally, I wish to indicate my availability in whatever form of support that may be needed to enhance capacity among the professional staff and to help build that culture of research and analysis that I spoke of. Best wishes to you all, and I look forward to participating in the upcoming proceedings as much as I can. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sergis, for those remarks. Mr.
Sergis would have laid some seminal points that I just want to reiterate.
And I'm sure during today's proceedings, the presenters and in the discussion to follow will touch on some of those points as well.
So how do we use evidence-based research to guide FDI acquisition?
How do we use
that to sort of drive our renewable energy push?
And how do we make digitization
itself a cornerstone of St. Lucia's macroeconomic development?
I think Mr. Sergis would have highlighted some solutions that we can consider
in terms of treating access to the internet as a public good, similar to how we treat other utilities.
He would also
provide some recommendations
with
respect to how the government can provide assistance to companies who are operating in the digital realm.
And he
also would have encouraged us to take advantage of
innovative ideas,
such as what Barbados is doing
with respect to encouraging
remote work.
And I know that
program
which Barbados has launched garnered quite a lot of discussions regionally and in St. Lucia as well. And I'm pretty sure that other jurisdictions would follow suit.
So, Mr. Sergis, thanks again for your remarks, and I'm sure the presenters
would highlight those and
sort of go into more detail on those during the course of today's presentation.
What I want to do
at this point in time is to highlight to the audience
and to our audience in our
virtual realm
how the rest of
these proceedings are going to unfold. So that way you can sort of
identify which sessions and which periods you are most interested in. Those of you who could join us for the entire day, that would be welcome. But to those of you who may at some point want to come in and out, let me just run through what is going to happen. We are, in terms of the next agenda item, going to have poster presentations. Now, these poster presentations, we're going to try to ensure that these happen in both the virtual and the physical realm as well. To the audience who is in studio, if I can use that word, you are going to see the posters that are going to be discussed today displayed on the screens that are scattered throughout the room. So you can approach a poster,
and the individual who would have made or spoken to that poster
may be there to
sort of guide you and to highlight
succinctly
what the presentation is about.
Following that,
and those of you in the virtual realm, we would try to share our screens and cycle through
the 5 or 6 posters so you can get a sense as to what is available. That poster presentation period is going to last essentially for those of you in the virtual realm for 1 hour. So after the presentations of the posters,
we will resume in 1 hour. Half of that hour would be for the audience, sort of read through the posters. The other half would be for a brief tea break.
At the end of that poster delivery period, we are going to move into our free sessions. The first session is going to touch on the papers speaking to the monetary and the real sector. In that session, we have 2 papers. One entitled A Financial Inclusive Approach for Enhancing Credit in St. Lucia, and another a new agricultural sector, a review of St. Lucia's agricultural sector with a proposed technological growth model. So that is going to be in session 1. in session two,
which is looking at the social sector,
that is going to have two papers
as well.
In that session, we are going to have a paper looking at the strengthening of St. Lucia's safety net response
to future shocks.
And we are going to be looking at the second paper, what are the better practices for promoting positive mental health in students
with and without
disabilities at the
elementary
level. Today's
proceedings will end
with a third session that is going to look at two papers as well. In that session, we're going to look at a piece
enhancing
school connectedness in vulnerable youth through arts education
and
the returns to education
in St. Lucia.
4:55. I think last year we went into 6 p.m., almost 7. The discussions were lively. And speaking of discussions, let me speak to how we are going to entertain comments and what have you. In each session, as I would have indicated, there are two papers. The presenters are going to highlight their findings, and discussants are going to speak to what are the areas that they believe the presenters may have overlooked or could strengthen. During each session, we are going to take comments, and we are going to take comments from our virtual audience and also our in-person audience as well. To those of you on the virtual realm, so to those of you who will be on the Zoom platform, simply raise your hand in the Zoom platform and we would come to you. We are also streaming this initiative at the NCPC's YouTube and Facebook page. That would be St. Lucia NCPC, Facebook and YouTube pages. And we would have individuals who will be scrolling through the comment sections there to get a sense as to whether anyone would like to make a contribution. So 3 sessions. Each session has 2 papers. Each session would have a period of time allotted to allow the presenters to speak, a period of time allotted for the discussants to critique the papers, and a period of time to allow for comments from the in-studio, for lack of a better word, persons, and for those of you on the virtual platform, whether it be Zoom or whether it be the Facebook or YouTube page of the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council. Thanks again for participating thus far, and we hope that you can remain throughout the rest of the day. Just in terms of timing, so that those of you, particularly those of you on the online platforms, can schedule your day, we anticipate that lunch is going to be from 12:30 to 1:30, and session 2 would start from 1:30 to 3 p.m., and we anticipate that session 3 would start from 3 to 4:30 p.m. We are going to now have a 1-hour break that would include the poster presentation and the break, and immediately thereafter, we are going to move into session 1. So hopefully all of you got that, and we will take a break now. Those of you on the Zoom platform, I would try to share my screen and cycle through the posters. Those of you in the room, feel free to go to the different screens. You will see that each screen has a different poster, and you could have a look at what is to follow. Thanks again, and you've been a great audience thus far. Thank you, and look forward to your continued participation. Hi, Mr. Sergis, yes?
Yeah, I have one question. Is there a symposium only for today, or does it continue throughout the week?
It is for today. One of the things that we have discussed is to explore the extent to which on a day during the week, we are thinking of a Friday during the lunchtime period, to have almost mini sessions where individuals can present their papers via a Zoom platform during the lunchtime break. So as you're eating lunch, you could listen to a research paper. The name that we are going for is the Brown Paper Bag Lecture Series. We would have small snacks and whatnot in person for a few persons who can make it. But essentially, we are aiming for a lunchtime session sort of event where you can discuss and learn while you're having lunch. We would provide more, and we will send out emails and what have you to give persons an indication as to when that would start. But I think we have at least 4 or 5 papers that could feature in that. So each week, we can choose a Friday in that week, well, the Friday of that week, and have a session during the lunch hour that would highlight a socio-economic issue of relevance. And we can also invite persons in the audience and on the Zoom platform would want to participate in something like that to contact us. So we are on only for today, but we are hoping throughout the rest of this month and towards the tail end of the year to have sessions where we can bring a live research and sort of have more formal and structural discussions on issues of the day. Is that okay, Mr. Sergis?
Yeah, that's fine. Just remember to put me on your mailing list.
All right, not a problem at all. So thanks once again, and we would break now. Thank you. Oh, I could just share I'll share the screen, and essentially.